Most people believe the lottery is random. They see it as a game of chance, a collision of coincidence and probability where only the lucky walk away with millions. But that belief, that deep internal assumption that winning is rare, selective, and dependent on outside forces, is exactly what keeps most people from ever holding that winning ticket in their hands. What you call luck is simply a name for what you don't understand. Joseph Murphy didn't speak in riddles. He revealed what was always there, the law beneath the surface. According to him, the universe doesn't operate on luck. It functions as a mirror, responding not to hopes or wishes, but to your inner state of consciousness. The lottery, in its visible form, is just one expression of this law. What looks like random numbers being drawn is, in truth, a perfect reflection of vibrational alignment between desire and belief. There was a man in Ohio who won the lottery 7 times. He wasn't using math. He wasn't hoping. He was assuming. He bought the ticket with the inner knowledge that he had already won. He wasn't playing the odds. He was playing the law. And that law is not interested in probability. It's interested in clarity, in certainty, in who you are, not what you want. This is the truth most never hear, that the moment you buy the ticket hoping to win, you've already lost. But when you buy it in the state of having already received, when your mind, your body, your emotional field all operate as if the money is already yours, something shifts. The illusion of randomness collapses. The field around you begins to organize. You're no longer waiting for a miracle. You're walking into one that was already waiting for you. Everything in your external life is responding to your internal assumption. The bank account, the circumstances, the ticket, they're all echoes, reflections of the vibration you hold. That's not philosophy, it's structure. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. Joseph Murphy didn't teach wishful thinking. He taught energetic precision. While most people approach life with uncertainty, waiting for signs or hoping something will happen, Murphy understood something different, that the subconscious is not a storage space for memories, but a living mechanism that obeys what you assume to be true. And assumption is not imagination, it's embodiment. According to his teachings, your reality is not created by chance, but by the dominant idea you accept as fact. That idea becomes the seed planted in the soil of your subconscious mind. And once it takes root, it begins to grow, unfolding itself through people, events, coincidences, and outcomes. This is not just belief. It is alignment with a law, a universal system that reflects your inner world into the outer with mathematical accuracy. So when it comes to the lottery, you're not trying to beat the odds. You're aligning with a version of yourself that has already won. You're not visualizing in hope. You're living from the result. This is why Murphy insisted, consciousness is the only reality. Everything else is a shadow. The lottery ticket, the bank account, even your current situation. They're all projections of a deeper state. Shift that state, and the projection changes. Murphy's most powerful contribution was not just in what he said, but in what he proved through stories. Stories of people who changed their entire financial reality not through external hustle, but through inner assumption. A mother working 2 jobs who visualized herself living like a millionaire, and 3 weeks later, she was. A man on the edge of losing his home who assumed wealth so vividly that even in the middle of chaos, he felt rich. And within days, he won millions. They didn't win by chance. They won by law. The law of assumption. And this law doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you are, your identity, your inner self-concept. That's why changing your life isn't about adding something new. It's about remembering what's already within you and assuming it is true. There is a moment, quiet, internal, undeniable, where something shifts inside you. It's the moment you stop wishing and you start knowing. Most people never reach this point because they're too busy waiting for signs or chasing certainty outside themselves. But according to Joseph Murphy, the only thing you truly need to change is your inner state. Because once the inner is aligned, the outer must follow. Not maybe, not hopefully, unquestionably. Buying a lottery ticket in a state of hope sends a vibration of lack. It's a subtle message. I don't have, but I want. And the subconscious listens. It obeys. So it continues to reflect that same message back. Experiences of wanting, of not having. But when you buy that same ticket from a state of inner knowing, when your body, your breath, your imagination all speak as one, saying, I have already won, you activate a different law. The law of assumption. This is not blind belief. It is deliberate embodiment. You assume the identity of the one who has already received. You let go of the timeline. You stop checking for results. And instead, you begin to live from the vibration of completion. You make decisions from abundance. You walk with the posture of wealth. You speak not with desperation, but with calm authority, the kind that doesn't need to prove anything because it already is. Your inner state becomes the true lottery ticket, not the piece of paper in your pocket, but the vibration in your nervous system. And once that signal is steady, the physical world has no choice but to match it. The universe is obedient to energy. It doesn't argue. It reflects. And when your inner state speaks clearly enough, consistently enough, it becomes reality. Before we go deeper, if this is resonating with your inner knowing, now is a good time to subscribe and like this video. Not just to stay connected, but to anchor yourself in this new way of being. The power you seek is not waiting to be found. It's waiting to be felt. The moment you stop hoping and start knowing, the win is no longer a possibility. It's inevitable. The true creative act isn't to imagine the moment you win. It's to live inside the reality where the win has already happened. This subtle distinction changes everything. Joseph Murphy and those who understood his teachings knew that the subconscious responds not to abstract ideas, but to specific sensory experiences. When you build a scene that feels real, lived, and familiar, your nervous system accepts it as truth, and truth always seeks expression in the physical. You don't visualize buying the ticket. You don't focus on the lottery draw or the numbers on the screen. That's still rooted in hoping. Instead, you create a short, vivid, emotive, and emotionally charged scene that happens after the win. Maybe you're transferring a large amount of money to a charity. Maybe you're sitting with a banker who now speaks to you with a tone of respect. Maybe you're gifting a house to a family member. The action doesn't matter. The emotional imprint does. Keep the scene brief, no more than a minute. Let it take place a few days after your imagined win, just far enough that your logical mind can't interrupt. And most importantly, experience it in first person. See it through your own eyes. Hear the sounds. Feel the air. Notice the temperature of the room. The subconscious doesn't work with words. It responds to sensory impressions, and the more detailed they are, the more deeply it listens. As you build this scene, return to it often. Let it become familiar. Let it be the last thing you visit before you sleep. and the first thing you recall when you wake. The space between waking and sleeping is when your subconscious is most receptive. It's the doorway between worlds, the moment when your imagined reality begins to impress itself onto the unseen. And this is not fantasy. This is practice. Every time you repeat the imaginal act with emotion and consistency, you're not escaping reality. You're writing it. You are creating the energetic mold that life will eventually fill. Your job is not to chase the result. Your job is to live the vibration. Let the scene shape your state, and let your state shape your world. After the assumption is made, after the imaginal scene is planted and wired with emotion, something begins to shift. Not just within, but around you. Life starts to rearrange itself, quietly, without announcement. What follows is not magic. It is what Joseph Murphy and many other conscious creators call the bridge of incidents, a series of seemingly ordinary events that, when followed with awareness, lead inevitably to the manifestation of your desire. You may feel an unexpected urge to stop at a certain store. You may overhear someone mentioning a number or location that resonates. You might even have a vivid dream about buying a ticket or feel a pull to play at a very specific time. These are not coincidences. They are the echoes of your assumption, unfolding themselves through people, places, and timing. But the key is this: do not overthink them. Do not question. Follow the impulse without interference. Your conscious mind will want to analyze. It will try to label these moments as chance. But the subconscious does not operate by logic. It operates through alignment. The moment you assume you've already won, the universe begins to conspire. Not with dramatic miracles, but through ordinary details charged with invisible intelligence. This bridge may look like randomness, but every step is calculated by the vibration you've chosen to hold. And here is where most people fail. When the incidents begin, when signs appear or opportunities nudge them forward, they hesitate, they doubt, they interrupt the unfolding. That doubt becomes a new assumption, and the bridge collapses. The manifestation dissolves not because it was false, but because the belief that created it was withdrawn. But when you follow the bridge with quiet confidence, when you let life move without needing control, you begin to realize that everything is connected. The win wasn't a stroke of luck. It was the final step of a path that began the moment you chose to know instead of wish. Stay present. Be aware. Walk the bridge without fear. Because once the inner work is complete, the outer must comply. Not because you forced it, but because it was always yours. What you feel about yourself isn't just a passing emotion, it's a frequency. And that frequency is constantly broadcasting, shaping your experiences in silence. You are never just thinking. You are always declaring. The subconscious doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to who you believe you already are. That belief, that emotional identity, is what shapes reality into form. You can visualize abundance, repeat affirmations, and write goals. But if deep within you still feel like someone who lacks, someone who hopes, someone who doubts, then those surface actions are overridden. The vibration of identity always wins. Joseph Murphy understood that the feeling of being, not the desire, but the being, is what activates the creative power of the mind. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you are. To win the lottery, to draw large sums of wealth, to shift into a life of overflow, it's not enough to think rich thoughts. You must feel what it means to be a person of abundance. You must become emotionally familiar with having money, moving through life as someone who has options, not limits. And you must hold that feeling until your nervous system registers it as natural. This is why Murphy emphasized emotional rehearsal. When you live internally, as if the wish has already been fulfilled. When you spend the day not trying to become, but being, the universe begins to take you seriously. Because you're no longer pretending, you're aligning. And this alignment turns you into a magnet, not for fantasy, for fact. Emotion is the fuel. Identity is the signal. The combination of both is the code that reshapes the world around you. If you wake up and walk through your day carrying the state of someone who has already won, every interaction, every decision, every tiny moment begins to bend toward that version of reality. You're not asking anymore. You're becoming. The universe is not random. It is exact. It does not punish, reward, or test. It reflects. And what it reflects is not your words or wishes, but the vibrational identity you carry in silence. In the quantum field, every possibility already exists. Every lottery number has already been drawn. Every millionaire version of you already lives somewhere in the spectrum of potential. But the version that becomes real is the one your consciousness agrees to occupy. Joseph Murphy taught that reality doesn't respond to effort. It responds to assumption. The more purely and consistently you assume a state, the more obediently the universe bends to match it. This isn't mysticism. It's resonance. And resonance is law. The outer world isn't checking whether you deserve wealth or if you've worked hard enough. It's simply echoing the signal you're broadcasting from within. That's why sudden wealth, miracles, or transformations often appear as luck to outsiders. They didn't see the inner work. They didn't hear the silent certainty that was being repeated behind the scenes. But the universe heard it, and it answered. Always it answers, because it cannot deny a stable vibration. This obedience isn't personal. It's structural. Just like gravity pulls a falling object without asking who dropped it, the universe delivers the result of your dominant frequency without exception. It doesn't care if you've failed before. It doesn't care how long you've waited. If today your inner world shifts completely, the outside begins to respond instantly, not always in full form, but through a series of movements that cannot be reversed once begun. That is why the formula works. Not because it manipulates life, but because it aligns with how life already operates. When your identity says, "I am already the winner," and you hold that identity long enough, the quantum field begins organizing itself in your favor. You don't need to chase the result. You need to stay anchored in the state. You don't have to wait for life to change. You only have to repeat the internal truth until your subconscious accepts it as final. This is the fail-proof formula, not because it forces reality, but because it follows the rules of how reality already responds. Every night before sleep, you enter a doorway. The space between waking and dreaming is where your subconscious is most open, most sensitive, most responsive. This is the moment you plant the seed. Build your imaginal scene. Make it vivid. Make it simple. Let it be a moment that could only exist after the win has occurred. Then rep it, not as a wish, but as a memory. Let the feeling of wealth become familiar. Let your nervous system learn the sensation of certainty. You are not trying to convince yourself. You are allowing yourself to remember. Fall asleep in that state. Let it be the final energy you carry into rest. When you wake, before your mind reboots the world around you, return to it. Feel it again. Then it and walk through your day, not hoping for change, but being the one who has already changed. Let that identity make your choices. Let that vibration answer the phone, pay the bill, hold the posture. Over time, you stop asking if it's working. You stop checking the outside, because the inside has become so stable, so convincing, that reality no longer holds power over you. And then, effortlessly, inevitably, the outside follows. A lottery win, a sudden shift, an impossible moment begins to appear as if by accident. But you'll know better. You'll recognize it not as surprise, but as return. The return of what you already became. And if this message has echoed something deep inside you, let it continue. Subscribe, like, and keep this vibration alive, not just in you, but in those who are ready to remember. More truths are waiting, more formulas hidden behind the veil. Watch the videos now appearing on your screen. Each one holds another key to the reality that already belongs to you.